Hello, this is Rev Michellehopkins. This is a follow-up of a video that I did regarding earthquakes that were happening in St. Croix. Remember this very teeny tiny island in St. Croix? And I showed you also earthquakes that were happening in California, and that some of them were oil company targeted, possibly. And I mused as to whether it was possible that Russia could be behind it, or whether the UN was behind it. Ultimately, the UN is more than likely behind it because the TTA network is under the auspices of the UN. I think I may have found the actual array that was causing it, and also, very possibly, the 7.6 earthquake in Costa Rica that happened only yesterday, and the subsequent earthquakes that have been happening since then. Now, St. Croix, if you remember, is this little tiny island right here. But right next to it is a larger island, San Juan. Let's look at San Juan. I want to show you something. Many of you have likely seen this before. This is the Arecibo Observatory. Now, if you're unfamiliar with observatories, this is what observatories normally look like. This is not your typical observatory. Let me show you around. Arecibo is a radio telescope. It is a massive observatory, as you can see. Absolutely massive. And right here is what looks like, if you can see it, a gigantic microphone. And if you'll notice, underneath this gigantic microphone that is more than merely a microphone, it is both a transceiver and a receiver, meaning that it can transmit frequency and it can receive frequency data, frequency return, echo return. It's used much like radar is used, and sometimes it's called radar for that very reason. What it does is it bounces frequency off this huge dish that you see right here. This dish is the ground equivalent of what Haarp would use in the ionosphere. This dish is like a booster to an ionospheric bounce. In other words, you can use this dish to boost the signal to either go up to a targeted point in the ionosphere that will bounce back down from the ionosphere, and doing that you can you have the space of about a quarter of the planet. You could bounce it anywhere from where you are to about a quarter of the planet away, or you could bounce it up to a satellite that is above this area and bounce it down from the satellite, or tandem satellites from satellite to satellite, and then bounce it down to anywhere on the Earth. Very, very powerful piece of equipment. This area's equivalent of Haarp. Now let me show you exactly what it does, how it works as a telescope, because as you notice, it doesn't actually have a telescope. This is what a regular observatory would look like. That is the telescope. Okay? This doesn't have a visual telescope. It has an audio telescope or a radio telescope. It can send out huge amounts of frequency of any type. This has the capability to send out frequency that runs the gamut. This huge range of frequency that this piece of equipment is capable of emitting and receiving goes way, way beyond the human ability to hear, both in the very extremely low frequency or infrasound, all the way to the extremely high frequency or EHF. And it can cause any number of symptoms in the human being or any other kind of earth issues. It can cause weather issues, it can cause earthquake issues, just like any other Haarp type array or Tesla Tech array. It is part of the Tesla Tech array network. If it shoots its infrasound out into space or EHF out into space, it can bring back images like radar can bring back images, or sonar can bring back images. It goes out into space where it's targeted to the place where it hits, then that sound is sent back, and the density is judged, and an image is created from that frequency return. That image, not just a visual image, but if you add a color program to that image will tell you what kind of gases, what kind of minerals, and so forth are on whatever body that you have just detected through that frequency image. This is the YU-55 asteroid seen through this observatory. It was seen through radar image or radio telescope data. So if this was the array that was used to cause all of these earthquakes in this area and perhaps in this area, and the 7.6 that happened only yesterday in Costa Rica, then it is more than likely that it is the U.S. that is causing these earthquakes, that has ordered these earthquakes or has some reason for these earthquakes to happen, or it is simply the powers that be that run the UN that have determined that these earthquakes are to take place for whatever economic or population reduction reason. If I had to make a guess or a judgment as to why they were taking place, I would say that is probably a good reason, a valid reason, given the powers that be, given Agenda 21, given population reduction, given the economic destruction of our global economy that is on the path to fruition. Just a possibility. And the path and the plot thickens day by day. Be blessed. God bless you all, and thank you for watching.